And with that, we've slapped on the 35-pound bumper plates, and we're warming up here with 115. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our January 18, 2025 leg day. I'm so glad that you're all here with me. And we've got some interesting developments here to talk about for this particular session. This was actually the first session of week 3 of technically a 6-week macrocycle, if you include the deload week. And we are currently at 2 reps in reserve. So this set that I'm rocking out right now is the very first warm-up set of the day. So, like I said, got the 35s on there, so it's 115 pounds for the load, and just taking it nice and easy, nice and slow. So pop it on the 45 to make the load 135 pounds. Do a few more reps here, potentiate a little more. So got a little an interesting little tidbit here. You'll see at the tips of my toes there, I got a nice fat line of chalk. And that's because if you saw our last video, our last leg day, which was, January 14th, I noticed watching the footage back, I had the camera centered-ish, kind of like I do in this shot right here. And I noticed that the bar was like super crooked, and I could even see that my whole body was kind of tilting throughout the movement. So this is that line there is I guess a tactic I'm using to try to make sure that the thing I'm not doing is something I've done before, which is moving one of those feet back. Usually my left foot, I end up moving back. And I'm really not quite sure why I started doing that, if it was some sort of compensation. I've mentioned in the past that I fractured my hip. I tore the bottom of my hip bone. I basically pulled the epiphyseal plate, or it's called the growth plate usually, and some of the bone off doing powerlifting. And so my squat has always been a little bit weird. So it'll actually be really interesting to see, once I start getting really lean, what my legs actually look like. If there's a major imbalance in either the quads or hamstrings or anything, it wouldn't surprise me at all, given just the way that lifting feels different in the 2 legs, which, it's unfortunate, but it's just part of my situation, so I'm just rocking with it. But you may have noticed we threw on the 10 and the 2.5, so that brings us up to our working weight. So that was set 1 there, 11 reps at 160 pounds. So I will say that doing that thing with the line and making sure I get my toes lined up, it felt more stable. I feel like it looks more stable too. The way my knees they seem like they're pushing out at an equal measure out and forward. Still traveling over the toes nicely, so that's good. What else can we look at here? Okay, it's good to see the first few reps. It looked like I was rushing the eccentric a little bit on that. So it's nice to see, that nice eccentric. Let's see, how long is it? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, and about maybe just under a second pause. So that's perfect. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. There's no specific reason that I'm keeping that cadence exactly. It's just what I've started doing, and I've been doing it with high bar back squat for a while now. It's just my specific consistent form that I'm keeping week to week to week, session to session, macrocycle to macrocycle. That way I can track it. When it comes to big lifts like this, like something like a bench press, an overhead press, pull-ups, high bar back squats, these like big, heavy compound movements, I try to keep the form pretty much exactly the same all the time. Now, on some of the like smaller movements or ones where the load isn't as high, I might play around a little bit and mess with stuff just to see if I can tweak something to work a certain group more than another, like messing with straight leg deadlifts to see if you can get more glute activation or something like that. But for these big ones, I try to keep it stable. So nice little grind there at the end. Definitely getting close to failure with that speed decrease. So it's good to see it and not just feel it like I did this morning. Speaking of which, okay, let's get to this. I'm trying not to skip this anymore. How do I feel after my last session? So that was the pull session, and that was on the 16th, so 2 days ago. And nothing sore, really. Biceps aren't sore. I guess technically my lats are a little bit sore, but my lats are kind of like my hamstrings. They're just always a little bit sore unless I'm doing a deload week and then they actually fully recover. But they're like, whenever I'm on program, they are pretty much, those two, lats and hamstrings, are pretty much always sore. And now that I'm doing calves at this increased frequency, doing it basically 4 times a week, they'll probably always be sore as well, which is good. That's great. I'm all about nonstop growth for the lats and the calves and the hamstrings. That's good stuff. So speaking of hamstrings, we are loaded up here doing our working set on the straight leg deadlifts. This one looked good. Watching the footage back, nice and slow on the way down, pushing the butt back and up at the same time to really stretch the hamstrings and the glutes as much as I can. Get the maximal amount of tension I can out of it there. But yeah, these are feeling great. Weight increase is coming with some relative ease, but I will say that my lower back, like my lumbar spine, is getting so involved right now on these straight leg deadlifts. So it's getting a little bit uncomfortable, but I think that's probably because I was noticing that after my leg days, my rear delts were sore, which is strange because, I'm not really working the rear delts on leg day, but then I noticed, it's probably from doing these straight leg deadlifts, the way I'm holding the bar. I'm probably like pulling back, or maybe I think what I was actually doing is at the very bottom of the movement, like I would get close to touching the floor, and I think what I was doing is just stretching my rear delts a little bit and tapping the floor. And so I stopped doing that because then that's making the bottom part more focused on the rear delts, which is not what I want. So what I started cueing is whenever I get really close to the bottom, instead of just trying to like stretch and reach the bottom, I'm just continuing to like push my butt back, and eventually it ends up tapping it. And the bar kind of surprises me when it taps on the floor, which I think is probably a good sign that I'm not like forcing it down, which I think is kind of what I was doing before, involving the rear delts and, getting that whole distraction situation going on. Now, I didn't really mention the volume, but those straight leg deadlifts, it was just the one set. I mean, you would have noticed if you watched the video, but if anyone's just listening, it's only one set. I did 3 sets of high bar back squat, one set of straight leg deadlifts, and now I am onto the reverse Nordic curls, which I tried this angle out. It's not the best, especially with shorts that like disappear into the rubber matting there. But I'm messing around with it, see where I get. It's hard too with the minimal lighting because it's so cold right now in the winter. I don't really want to be getting blasted with 26-degree wind chill while I'm trying to lift. It's hardcore. Maybe if I want to be hardcore one of these days and do maybe I'll do a freeze my cojones off live stream or something. I don't know why I would do that, but if I lose my mind or something sometime soon, get hit in the head really hard. Maybe I'll do something like that. But anyway, back to these reverse Nordics. Still sticking with 2 sets. We're gonna see how I feel tomorrow and the next day. If I want to go ahead and add some volume, because I remember last time I did legs, my quads being sore, but not very sore. So I might end up our next session, our next leg session on the 22nd, I might end up adding an additional set there. That way I can really stimulate the quads maximally each time we're hitting them. So that's what we're looking at with the reverse Nordics. And as far as progressing, I'm going to increase the reps until I get to about 20 reps on these, like being able to do sets of 20. And then I've got the band wrapped around my hand twice. I'm going to wrap it around once and then work my way back up to 20. And then after that, I think I should be good to go ahead and just not use the band anymore. Probably hold my arms straight down by my side or in front of me, because that'll give me a little better leverage and make the movement a little easier. And then just progress my arms up to my chest, and then eventually the next progression after that would be holding some sort of weight on my chest. If you're doing reverse Nordics while like holding a plate, you're a monster. That is like some serious flexibility, knee health, and knee strength too, and of course quad strength. That would be just nuts. But it's nice that there's a pretty good progression that come along with those, and the movement's actually feeling pretty good now. It's the stretch actually feels kind of nice after doing the high bar back squats. Maybe I'm a little weird because it kind of feels like it's like ripping off the bone, but I don't know, I kind of like it. Now on to the calf raises. So these are dope. I absolutely love these calf raises using the barbell. It just feels so much better to me. I don't know, it's like, I guess because it's much more locked in, it's not really floating, so I'm much more stable. I suppose that's probably the advantage to using like a machine for your calf raises, because it's just, it's a big, super heavy machine that you get into, and it basically like locks onto you and provides force, through whatever curve whatever type of machine it is to apply on your calves. But if you're just holding dumbbells, they're kind of just floating there. You're having to use other muscles to stabilize. So the bar, it can like rest on my upper thighs. I've got it locked in with the Versa grips. I mean, it's glorious. It's feeling really nice. So I'm going to keep doing that every leg day and every pull day. And I did mention, I think I mentioned yesterday that I found a tape measure. So I'm going to measure the calves, see how big they are, and then I guess maybe I'll take measurements every month or so, probably without a pump, and see what kind of growth we get going. But that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you all have a good one. See ya.